Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at my repository. Because the last time I worked on this, I did it at school, so I couldn't really stream it. But I'm doing it today. Give me 1 second. Yeah, then we pulled the master branch, and okay, all the changes are now synced up as they should. Repo management is really easy when 100% of the people you're working with know what they're doing, and it's really easy for 100% of the people who you're working with to know what they're doing when 100% of the people you're working with means just you. What the hell? Okay, give me 1 second. I seem to have misplaced my executable for Godot. I didn't delete it, or did I? Oh no, I just named it something different. Okay. There we go. Okay, finally. There's another issue that I've been noticing that I have sort of with the thing, and that is the... One second though. Yeah, and that is that that's that sorry, hold on, what the fuck? What if I set it to this? Why is the side chaining all of a sudden not working? It was working before! I didn't change any settings on this. What the fuck? Everything good, guy? Everything okay? Well, everything good if I do this? No, that just lowered the volume in total. Give me 1 second. I'm having audio troubles today. What the fuck? Okay, what if I set it to 1:1? No, 1:1 is equivalent to nothing. What if I set it to 32:1? I'm confused, man. I'm fucking confused. Why is it not grabbing my audio? Did I? Oh. No, monitor is off. Okay, hold on. I'm having mad technical difficulties, so I'm going to ask you to give me some time while I try to fix them. Okay, what if I do this then? Right. So 7 works, but for some reason it's not catching a very good threshold. Okay, what if you do this then? No, that's still a huge threshold. What the fuck? What about this then? What if I set it to 31? 31 minus 31 decibels. Minus 47 then? Okay, 47 is way too much. Then how about minus 40? 40 is way too much. Then how about 35, which is what it was before? Hello, hello, testing, testing, testing. Okay, now it's working. What the? But I don't get it, because all I did was take the settings, move them to something, confirm that it didn't work, and then move them back to where they were before. And now they're working. I don't get it. I don't get it. And this bodes bad for what this stream is gonna be, because this is gonna be coding. And when I'm coding, I'm fixing this exact kind of technical shit. I'm cursed. Today I'm being cursed. I'm sure of it. Okay, well, let me explain what I did while I was out. While the progress that I did off stream, right? Progress that I did on off stream basically is just this. For one thing, you now can't just send your hand out indefinitely. It used to be that because when the hand is retracting, it is going to when the hand is retracting, it is going from grabbing mode to idle mode, and then you can, so long as it is in idle mode, you can tell it to grab again, which will make it extend. And the problem was before that if you do that, while it hasn't fully retracted yet, it's going to just extend from where it is, which is away from you, which meant that if you kept spamming the grab button, you can extend it further and further and further. And we fixed that issue just by giving it a cooldown. So just now, whenever it changes back to idle from grabbing mode, it takes like half a second before you can send grab again. But yeah, that's how we fixed that. The other thing that we did was you grab thing, you can throw it. Now the throw doesn't look like much because these things have no throwing behavior, so they just return back to idle and then they're able to fall down to the ground. That's all they do. But it works. Like in the part of the hand, it works. Like it sends a signal to the thing that it should be thrown. It's just that this one in particular doesn't do anything interesting when it is thrown, right? Now we have to fix a couple of things though. First of all is that this. Right, hold on. If I try to grab the thing while the hand is already in the range of it, then it is not going to allow the grab. I know why that is, but it's annoying, right? The issue is that the way that it detects that it's going to grab something is that it has the on collision enter signal be called, right? On body enter, right? The problem is that if it's already inside of a body, then it's not going to have called this signal. So what we have to do is that when you trigger a grab, it should detect whether it's already touching anything grabbable as a first step. So that's on a grab being triggered. That would be... where would that be? That would be... yeah, it will be here. So yeah, when you enter a new state and that state is grabbing, you should do all of these things. So set the variable that tells us whether we're reaching to true, start the reach time, to the global position, the anchor point. Yeah, set your position to the anchor point so that the grab always starts from the anchor point regardless of where the hands happen to be at the time. And then emit the grab initiated signal. Then, after doing all those things, you should also detect grabbable at your position. So that would have to be... hold on. Who detects grabbables usually? It's you, right? It's on body enter. So then you should do that as well. So yeah. Detect grabbable. Right? So then, since these are all signals, let's put it here. So we're gonna have a function called detect grabbable. Function detect grabbable. This is basically going to do Could I call this? Just call this as if it was on body enter. Like manually? Is that a thing that I'm allowed to do? Oh, yes, I am. I'm totally just allowed to do that. Yeah. Oh, shit, that's good. That means I just get to cheat. Yeah, I can just... Yeah, I can just... Essentially what I'm doing is just faking a body entered event. So I can just do that. So detecting grabbable is going to grab the closest grabbable, or rather any grabbable that is... No, the closest. It should be the closest. Because otherwise it should be grabbables, right? Let's write that. Right? We're gonna return it as a grabbable, but then we're gonna pass it as a... We're gonna pass it to the function as a the node3d, because that's what the other function expects. Even though grabbable is a node3d, but you know. Oh shit, my bitrate looks weird. Whatever, we're not gonna worry about that. Yeah, so detect grabbable. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to detect all the grabbables that are within range. This is an area 2D, which means that I can... Hold on. Close all other tabs. Means that I can just look in here. I'm pretty sure that there is a function that lets you just detect whatever, just returns a list. Yeah, there it is. And I want bodies. So get overlapping bodies, and that's gonna give me a list of node3ds. Get overlapping bodies. And then we want to go through this list and get the closest body to the current position of this node that is also a grabbable. So for each body of type node 3, no, it wouldn't be a body. What would it be? It would be a node 3D, huh? Why wouldn't it be a physics body? For each node 3D type body in the body's touch, I want you to and this is just the standard find the closest thing, so and actually should be equal to float infinity, and then if body is grabbable, because if it's not, we just want to skip. If this body is grabbable, then we're gonna check. Actually, we might as well just do it with an and. If the body is grabbable, because I'm pretty sure that this is lazy checking, so if the first one doesn't fulfill, then it's gonna just not even try with the others, right? So if the body is grabbable and body point global position point get distance global position distance to that, right? It's distance to body point global position. I just don't trust local positions. And that has to be smaller than closest distance, which the first time this runs it's always gonna be, because it's gonna be infinity. So if those two things are true, then current candidate has to be that body as a grabbable, and closest distance has to be that distance. So actually we should probably distance is this, and then we can just use that distance. So yeah, this just wait, really? How do I get, is it just him? Just like that? Yeah, it is. Okay. Closest distance is the distance. Let's go with distance to body, just because that's less prone to confuse me later. Right? Yeah, okay. So that's gonna get us the closest grabbable that is currently overlapping with the area that is a type of grabbable. So we can return that. Return closest current candidate. And this is always going to return a grabbable or a null. So then we can just go touched grabbable equals this, and then if touched grabbable isn't null, then I want you to simulate a on body entered signal from yourself, right? So just do this with that touched grabbable. Essentially what this achieves is that essentially what this achieves is that when you start a grab, it's going to create a body entered event with whatever body it happened to already have been entered. I'm phrasing this really weirdly. What it's going to do is it's going to check at the moment that the grab begins if there is a grabbable that it's touching, right? So that way it's like if something is available frame 1, then it's going to correctly grab it. It's not going to wait until it enters its hitbox because it's already entered it, right? So that should allow us to grab things that are already within range. So like this, right? Actually, not like that. Like this. Yeah, see? It grabs it immediately. The problem is, it also throws it immediately. So that's an issue. Grabbing and throwing, yeah, the problem is that grabbing and throwing are available. No, how is that happening? It's gotta be on query, on input query, right? So it's going to yeah, it's detecting that the button's being pressed. Then it's going grab enabled. Right. It's still in the state machine to try and change the hand state. And then it's going over here and checking that, you know, the state has been pressed, the machine. No, it's checking that the input has been pressed, which it has because it's the same input, it's the same button. It's not necessarily the same button, but it's the same button in this instance. Like I want that to be the default. And then it's trying again. So it's gotta be that all of that shit happens on the same frame. So like it's telling the state machine, hey, can you change the state? The machine does that, then that triggers this bit of code. This bit of code to check that there's a grabbable. It does, so it does the thing. Then that means that the state machine changes to grabbing, and then therefore by the time it gets to this one, it succeeds, which it shouldn't. The issue is that grabbing and throwing should not be possible on the same frame, right? So I can just do that in the I can just define that in the state machine, can't I? I can just tell the state machine, hey, if you grabbed on the previous frame, so I can just do it like on this frame rather than on the previous frame. So is that how I want to do that? I feel like the state machine shouldn't be checking frames. It feels wrong. Like it feels like this is what should prevent that, like the player hands should prevent from calling these two the same frame, right? But except I need them to be called the same frame because I don't know, and I don't want this guy to know which state it is in. Like I don't want it to be concerned about that when it sends these signals. So yeah, it should be the state machine. The state machine should have a definition, hey, you're not allowed to throw if this frame you already grabbed. Yeah, let's just do that. Fuck it. I don't like it, but fuck it, I'll just do it. Changed to grab this frame. Full. It should start as false actually. And then process change to grab this frame is false. Every single frame that gets set to false, and then change to grab this frame. No. If target state equals grab and state grabbing, and say that it's changed to grab this frame, yes, and then return true. And then we're gonna have it so that throwing, yeah, changing to throwing is a valid transition, but only if we haven't changed to holding this frame. Actually, it should be hold, not grab. What am I thinking? It should be holding. Like that. That should prevent that from happening, right? Yeah, it does. Okay, good. Excellent. There's no throwing behavior to speak of, but that's fine because that's implemented prior grabbable. Like I want all of them to behave differently, so this is just a dummy. Yeah, and like the hand tries to grab, like it reaches for it, but it's too far away. And if it's too far away to even detect that it's there, it is going to... Oh no, actually, I should reduce the distance, the hand detection area distance a little bit. Right now it is 50 meters. Let's make it like 7. So like it's enough to be bigger than the actual area that it can reach. Like from here, it tries to reach, but it's too far. But from here, it like... It doesn't... It's trying to reach to just a predetermined point in front of him, right? Because it doesn't detect any grabbable. If there's a grabbable near enough that it can see it, it's gonna try to reach for it, but it's not close enough to get there. And if it manages to actually be close enough to get there, it grabs it, and then throws it. Okay, so that's one thing done. That's nice. Then we can check that off of the old to-do list. Right? Let me see. Okay, the other thing that I was working on last time was flippable sprites. I was working on a system to do that, but class was over and I ran out of time to fix that. So now it's just kind of halfway. It's a good thing that I remembered that that's what I was working, because this is not the thing that I wanted. Also, what's this debugger? Oh, this. Always this. Yeah, just do that. Okay. So what I have here is a flipper. Yeah, a flipper thing. What this does is it flips the scale point X on the node, depending on whether it wants to face left, depending on whether its movement is left or right. Now, this only uses the player movement handler, but actually I'm thinking that this should be a bit more of a global thing, because I'm gonna want tons of sprites to flip themselves depending on where they're moving, not just the player. So making this dependent on the player movement handler is probably a bit of a mistake. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a flipper class that is like a global one, and then I'm gonna create little ones that inherit from it. So that way I can use just the common flipping functionality to flip a sprite left or right, and I can use different little subclasses to specify the behavior of when they should do that, right? Oh man, that coffee's hitting in. It's actually helping a lot. You know what I'm thinking? Is my audio even synced up to the music? I'm gonna have to check that later, because if it isn't, I'm gonna have to adjust the delay on the fucking audio source. Because I want it to be synced up to the music, you know what I mean? Okay, right, so generic flipper class, right? What should a generic flipper class do? Really, it should only have a sprite that it flips and a thing that it's trying to... But actually, should it have a sprite that it flips? It shouldn't be a sprite, it should just be a node, a 3D node. And it shouldn't be itself necessarily. It's easier if it is itself, though. I see no reason not to make it itself. Because then you put everything that you want to flip as a child of it, and it doesn't really matter. So yeah, okay, we're gonna decide that it is gonna be itself. Yeah, okay, let's make this a bit better. Right? Just because we may have sprites that scale the other way, let's set up an initial phasing. And we're gonna use an enum for this, actually. Oh, we already have it. Okay, amazing. I forgot about that. Right? So then we can set it up from the thing. So it starts facing right, it starts facing left. Really, the only difference is that is whether the scale should be whether the positive scale is the right facing or the negative scale is the right facing, right? So then we need two functions. Flip to left. Flip to right. Except why? Why do it like that when you could just do it like this? Just one function that is flipped to facing, and it receives a facing that we have defined as an enum. Right? So then we're gonna need to keep track of a current facing. And then we're gonna make sure that when this begins, so on ready, this current facing can be equal to the initial facing. And we have to remember which of these two facings is the negative. X, right? So it should be scaled on the X axis. Well, it's internal X axis, isn't it? So, so we need to remember the initial scale, because if I set up the scale to something other than 1, I don't want it to set it always to 1. I wanted to set it to, you know, if the initial scale is 10, then it has to be 10 or minus 10, not 1 and minus 1, right? And multiplying doesn't work, because if that scale is being manipulated by something else, then that's gonna be, if that changes during runtime, then that's not gonna be good. Except no, because these flippable nodes only care about, because only the children scale. Like, I'm not going to be manipulating this flipper node's scale any other time, because everything that needs to have its scale manipulated is going to live inside of it, so it doesn't really matter. They can have their scale manipulated, and the flipper will just handle its own scale on its own. Yeah, so it doesn't matter. It's just 1 or minus 1 then. Yeah. Okay, so the only thing I need to remember is whether it's 1 or minus 1. So, yeah. Right. Right, okay. Yeah, so if the facing is left, then record that the current facing is the left facing. If it is not, then record that the opposite of the current facing is the left facing, right? So then we can just remember that. Right. So then we check the new facing. If the new facing is the same as the current facing, then we do nothing. Because why perform useless operations, right? Otherwise, change to it. So, first make the current facing equal to this new one that we have just received. Then make your current scale the one that corresponds. So, if new facing equals enums facing left, then make sure that your scale point x equals left facing. Otherwise, make sure that your scale point x equals the opposite of your left facing. Right. So this is just a class that does, on its own it will do nothing, but then we'll have to create derived classes that use this function and choose when to use it, right? So then, yeah, so then we have to create a new script. And this is going to be the player flipper. And I'm going to expect that I'm going to need a bunch of other types of flippers, right? But this is the player flipper. The player flipper extends from the class flipper, so it has these two functions, and it does this already. It has all this already, right? Just by being a flipper. And then what it does is it has a reference to the player's input processor, because that's what it's going to be looking at, right? So input like that. It also needs the class name, so it's going to be the player flipper. And so what this guy is doing is anytime during process, so and it should be physics process, because this is in a way affecting movement, right? So I'm not gonna need the delta, right? Any physics frame, it's going to check. No, it wouldn't be the input processor. Hold on, would it be the input processor? No, it would be the movement handler. Yeah, it would be the movement handler. That's what it needs. Player movement handler. And then it's gonna check whether we're moving left or right? So movement handler point, and we want current horizontal speed. It's gonna take the current horizontal speed, and it's gonna say if this current horizontal speed is greater than 0, right, then I want you to flip to facing enums facing right, because greater than 0 is to the right. Otherwise, if the movement handler current horizontal speed is smaller than 0, and we don't do an else for a specific reason here, enums point facing point left, right? And we don't do an else specifically because we want the case where it is equal to 0 to not do anything. So it never flips if it's not moving. If the last facing was left, then you stay facing left until such a time as you begin to move. And also, we don't need to check if you are already facing left or right, because this function, the flip to facing, already does that. It just does nothing if the new facing is the same as the current one. So the player flipper doesn't have to do that, or more like it already does that, because that's behavior from its extended class, or from its class that it's extending from, which is the flipper, right? And so if we take this flipper and we, rather than assigning it that, we assign it this script, it should do what I wanted to do. Except no, because it errors, because I forgot to feed it who the movement handler is. It also has the initial facing set to right, which is what it is. It's facing right at the beginning. If it wasn't, I could just go here and change it to this. Yeah, and you see the player just sort of moves to the place that it wants. Okay, so this is all well and good, but I'm gonna do this so that you notice another issue that we're having is, let's say that I take this player hand sprite and make it black on one side, just so that it's easier to see. Right. Notice how the hand doesn't flip along with the player. Right? That is not behavior that I want. I want the hands to flip too, because obviously if the player starts moving the other way, then the hands should flip along with it, right? The issue is that if I put the hands inside of this flipper thing, not only are they going to be facing the other way, they're going to just instantly be teleported. And I don't want that. I like that feel that the hands sort of lag behind, right? So the hands have to be outside because the thing that gets flipped is the position that they're trying to chase, which is this anchor point. So this moves when the player flips and then the hands move to chase it, right? That is exactly what I want, but I want the hands to flip to face the other way when they start chasing, right? So essentially that means that they're gonna have to copy the flipping of the player, right? And that is good because it gives me a chance to test this flipper behavior. So we have a player flipper, we're going to need a copy flipper. And all that this copy flipper does is it looks at another flipper node and it decides whether it's going to flip or not based on whether that one is flipped or not, right? So this one extends from the class flipper. It is a copy flipper. We're going to call it a copy flipper. Oh, it's class name, not class name. And then so what does this do? This needs a reference to another flipper, right? Export bar to be copied. It is of type flipper. We don't care which kind of flipper it is. We just care that it is a flipper, right? Then it's going to have on its process, on its physics process. No, it should be just on its process, shouldn't it? Let's make it on its process. I feel that that's just better. Like I feel this is not a physics movement, so I should just do it like that. So on its process, it's just gonna be real simple. It's going to be looking at these other flippers. And it's going to be looking at its current facing. So if flipper to be copied current facing is different from this one's current facing, then try to, what was the function called? I forgot. Yeah, flip to facing. Flip to facing. Actually, we don't even, to be copied facing, current facing. We can do that, but there is the occasion where I may want it to be the opposite. So in that scenario, I want to have another variable that is opposite, and this one's a boolean. And so that way I can have it be so that it's copying the same, or if it's always going to the opposite, right? So then we can have it be so that if not opposite, then do that. Otherwise, if to be copied point current facing is enums point facing point right, then you go flip to facing enums point facing point left, and otherwise flip to facing enums point facing point right. Just like that. And what's your problem here? Oh. Like that. Yeah. Now I could do this with an elf sprite, but I like this more in this case just because it feels like to me at least, right? It syntactically makes more sense to consider that we have two scenarios, one of which branches out, rather than we have three scenarios, right? It's just a matter of personal preference. Right, and then we have to make sure that we do the thing. So we have to take these player hands and give it, create within it a child node, which is just a 3D node. We don't really care. And within this, we have this health position, this 3D sprite, not really the collision shape. Because the collision shape is just a sphere in the middle of this, right? So it doesn't matter if that one is flipped. It might matter in the future, but then I can just put it inside the flipper. And then we have the flipper here. We're gonna put it here, just nicer. And actually we're gonna put it here, like there more. And then we tell this flipper that it is a copy flipper. It is not going to the opposite. It starts facing to the right. Yeah, it does, because it's the same as the player. And then when it is instanced to the player, it is going to specifically... Oh, I fucked up. Yeah, because the flipper is inside, so it can't know. I mean, I could edit it inside here, but that feels ugly. So let's instead have it so that the player hands has that reference to you. Okay, and then we're gonna make sure that you do nothing if you don't have a to be copied node. So if to be, that's just so that it doesn't error. If to be copied equals null, then return. Just do nothing. We're going to have it so that the player hands feed this info to that guy. Oh Jesus, you have a lot of references. Copy flipper type, and then outside you have... But do you have a reference to the player just as is? That. And then yeah, and then on ready, it's going to feed those to the copy flipper. So sprite flipper point to be copied equals sprite flipper to copy. And there you go. That's all we need. So then internally you have to know that this is your sprite flipper, but then externally you need to know that this is the flipper that we want to copy. Yeah, okay, now it works. Now it's flipping. The sprite flips, but then it still chases the position. The beauty of this is that I can have many flippers do many different behaviors, right? Should I maybe lose my thread? Maybe lose that. What the fuck happened there? What the hell happened there? Did you see that? What the fuck happened there? Oh no, that's a terrible bug in the movement, if that was what I think it was. Oh no, hold on. So I think I know what might have been, that might have been, right? There's a point here. There's a point here where the point here where the path crosses itself. I think if somehow you manage to stop yourself right here, you might be able to confuse the path following algorithm and it'll place you on the wrong one. Although, come to think of it, why shouldn't you be able to flip to the other one? Maybe this is not a bug that we need to fix. Maybe this is a thing that we need to make into a feature. Just have it so that you are able to, when you're at a crossing or close enough to a crossing, you can press a button and switch from one to the other. No, that feels like creeping up on scope. I think the easier answer is that we don't worry about that for now and we just create levels where that never happens. And then if later we need to worry about that, we can worry about that then, you know? Yeah, that's probably sensible, especially since this is if this was the bug that I saw, which I'm not even sure that it is, then it's gonna take a lot of precision to even get it to trigger. So at this point, I'm fine with it being a thing that's just, it's not gonna happen to you by accident, you know what I mean? Right, yeah. Then what do I do? What do I do now? We already managed to do the flippable sprite. Well, that's the thing. We have basically all the basic behavior of the player. Well, actually, no, we don't. Something weird's going on. You see how it extends forward for different amounts of time? Like sometimes it stays there for a bit, which is what I expect, but then other times it just sort of goes back immediately. Like then. What's going on? Why is that? That's what we're doing now. Miscellaneous bug fixes. What is that? What's going on there? It's gotta be an issue with the timers. And my guess is that what's going on is that timers for stopping the grab state are running even after the state has stopped. Hold on. Oh, that's what's going on. Yeah, these should all be one-shot timers. What else is there? This one should also be a one-shot. Yeah, that's just consistent now. Yeah, that was silly, because, yeah. Like, of course, when I was testing it, it would work, because it always works the first time, because they're not auto-stars, but then on subsequent ones, it just constantly fucks up, because it's just constantly looping the timer. Okay, we have another issue, right? Which is with, you notice that the thing that I'm grabbing is not, the hand is flipping correctly, but the thing that I'm grabbing is not flipping along with it. That's a thing we need to fix. Because it needs to flip with it at least as long as it's being held. So... I mean, I could make it so that the grab dummy has a copy flipper to the has a copy flipper to that points to the thing that it's grabbing when it is grabbed, but that feels silly to do when I could simply put the dummy inside the flipper of the hand while it is being grabbed, right? Like the player hands holds a reference to the thing that they're grabbing, right? To the health grabbable, right? So I could make it so that when yeah, I could make it so that when this thing is when you begin a grab, you also take the health grabbable and make it child of grabbable points. Is it like a reparent? Yeah, I can just make it reparent, and your new reparent is going to be your sprite flipper. And keep double transform, make it true. Oh no, it defaults to true, right? And then when you toss it, right? When you toss it, then you take this, yeah, you take this held grabbable and you reparent to the root of the scene. Oh, yeah, because this has to be before this. Yeah, and now it's flipping along with the hand, but then when I toss it, it just stops listening to that. Oh yeah, that just works. And that allows it to have its own, crap, okay. Alright, sorry about that. Had to answer a phone call. very, very opportunely timed. But then I'm not gonna have my mom waiting. Hey mom, I'm streaming. You have to wait for 3 hours. How many viewers do you have, honey? Oh, you know, 0. This is worth wasting your fucking time, right? And to be fair, even if it was 1,000 viewers, I don't think I would necessarily keep her waiting. He's binless. What is this? Okay, what is this? This is a game that I'm making. Well, this is a stream. Hello, welcome. This is a game that I'm making. The whole game has a bit of a gimmick. It's just a 3D, 2.5D platformer where sort of you move like this. Like you can see the graphics are super ugly. I'm going to get some placeholder graphics from the artist who I'm working on this with somewhat soon. But yeah, it's this sort of game, right? So like movement is like horizontal. It plays, you move like it's a 2D game, so just left, right, and you jump. But like the stages sort of have you curving around some kind of environment, and the whole gimmick is that you have this little white square. Well, it's not gonna be a white square when I have the art, right? And then from that, you use it to grab things, and then depending on what things you're holding, that's going to affect the abilities that you have. So just by default, you have just like run, jump, and that's about it. And the whole point is that you're going to be grabbing these things and tossing them, and you're going to use that to sort of modify your move set. So for example, so long as you're holding a thing, you're going to be able to do a double jump, for example, or you're going to be able to do like the speed dash from Sonic, or like the air dash from Celeste, or something, right? Some kind of movement is going to be added by the object that you're holding, and then you're going to be able to toss it. And well, this one doesn't have much of an effect when it's grabbed or tossed. This is just a dummy object. But that's the gimmick, right? The gimmick is that you're going to have to just sort of grab these things and juggle them, and you know, when you toss them, they're gonna like go flying, not just fall in place like this one, right? And just go flying in different directions depending on what kind of object they are or how you toss them or whatever. That's sort of the gimmick. But yeah. Right now there's none of that though. Right now it's just that you could grab shit. That's all there is. Anyway, what was I working on? Miscellaneous bug fix. Right, I was just done with that. It was just the flipping of the sprites, right? Okay, so the next thing that we have to do is actually implement the gimmick, right? That would be the next thing. So let's put this in the to-do list. Actually do the gimmick of the game. What is this? This is... Hello? This is the stream. I'm a bit creeped out. I'm a bit creeped out that you two have said the exact same thing. Anyway, yeah, yeah. Okay, this is a game that I'm making. Anyway, okay, so I have to actually make the gimmick of this, right? It is right now. That's when this is. And we all wonder the same thing. Why might this be? Why might anything at all be? Okay, so yeah, I have... What the fuck? Hold on. What the hell? Oh, no, that just has an impressive distance. Okay. Right, so the whole gimmick of the game is that when you're holding something, that's going to grant you some kind of ability. So right now, just for testing, it's going to be a double jump. But how would I implement that, right? let's have this grab dummy, this grabbable dummy. How would I go about this giving you that ability, right? Because the first thing that I think of is, okay, maybe this is holding a node that stupid. What are you? Stupid. That's what I am. You guys are just having fun on your own. Right. So my first thought, right, is I want to have a node that this thing holds that doesn't do anything while it is holding it, but it passes it on to the player when it is being held, right? And then bypassing it onto the player. Well, except it doesn't have to pass it onto the player because it's going to be inside of the flipper while it is being held. So the player is going to have access to it just due to that, right? So then I could have a node inside here that is the extra ability node, and that node goes to not said, yeah, okay, makes game. Yeah, I could have a node inside of here that is just the ability node, and that interfaces with the player in whatever way it needs. And so this grab dummy holds the ability node, and the ability node can be activated and deactivated, and it's only activated when the player is holding it. Right. Okay, let's start just by having another node that gives the player a second jump, right? Let's just do that real easy. And then we're gonna see how that node gets enabled or disabled. Because the player shouldn't hold that node when it's not active, right? So what is the gimmick? The gimmick is that when you grab a thing, right, like this, depending on what thing it is, it's going to give you some sort of ability, right, that you can activate with your secondary button. So in this case, just for testing the coding, it's going to be a second jump, right? But the idea is that there's going to be like many things within the game, and each of them are going to give you a different secondary ability so long as you're holding it. So you have to sort of try to use these, try to get them, and basically kind of juggle them. Think of it like in Mario World ROM hacks, where players are sort of using Kirby with hands. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's actually like one of the things that we were discussing when we were thinking of the idea. Right? The idea is that you toss them, and when you toss them, they're like on the stage. So you can like try to recover them. You have to throw them someplace so that it'll be there when you get there, right? That sort of thing. And all the abilities are going to be different, etc. Right? So I have to think of a generic system that allows me to give the player many, many different abilities. And that's sort of what I'm struggling right now. So first of all, we're going to just make just a node, right? Just any node. This is going to be like the double jump ability. And we're going to make sure that I can code a double jump ability that just works with this, right? Just works by being here. And then we're going to think about how to give it to the player when it is being held, right? So the jump works by the movement handler doing a bunch of code, right? Fuck, wait, how do we do this? This is going to be a lot. The point is that we calculate the horizontal velocity by... Yeah, we calculate the horizontal velocity. No, the vertical velocity, what am I thinking? Because it's jumping. By checking the buttons, the state of the jump button. And we only do this if the player is on the floor. So we're going to want to sort of override how this works, but we want to do it externally. We want to do it from another script, won't we? Except we don't, though. Because this has the horizontal and vertical speed variable, so I can just have this touch those according to certain conditions, right? So all I have to do is all I have to do is have this be able to modify the vertical velocity by a certain amount if the button is pressed, but only if you don't already have a jump. So if the button is pressed while you're not on the floor. But the problem is that that might execute after. Okay, let's just do it and then we'll figure it out. So we need a double jump script, and we're gonna create a new folder, and this is gonna be for extra abilities, right? Because I figure we're gonna eventually have tons of them. This is extends a node, yes. Class name double jump. We're gonna decide later if this should be extended from a normal extra ability class, and I think that maybe not. Maybe that's not what I want it to be, right? So we need. No, I think we definitely wanted to extend from an extra ability class. Because all of them are gonna work the same, basically. Oh, yeah, I do want it to, actually. Because then I don't have to... Okay, yeah, let's code that first, because that's a generic thing that I'm gonna need. No, hold on. No, I'm getting distracted. No, I have to code the double jump first, and then I'll see how I'll code that. Okay. Right, double jump. So it needs a couple things. First, it needs to know what the inputs that the player is doing are. So we're gonna need a reference to the input processor, right? Then it's going to also need to know what the body, it's going to need to modify a couple values in the movement handler. So it's going to need to know that. Movement handler. Player. Movement handler. Then, no, that's it. That's all that it needs. I think, I'm pretty sure. No, it also needs to know what the player is, because it needs to check with the player in order to know whether the player is touching the ground or not. So, variable. Player, and this is of type player. It doesn't actually need to be the player, it just needs to check a thing that is on its base class, but that doesn't really matter. I'm gonna make the player because he has to be a player in the logic of the game, right? So, so then, what does this actually do? It's going to have to follow sort of the same logic as the input processor. No, as the movement handler. So it has to check. It has to first. Oh yeah, I can just do it directly. So okay, it has to first know what the jump input is, and then check if that is what I want it to be, then it has to give it an impulse if the player is on the ground. Is not on the ground, because that's a second jump. If it were on the ground, it would be a first jump. And then it also needs to keep track if it's already given it a second jump so that it doesn't do it again. So var jump stop. Whether the jump is stopped or it has been used, right? And this is the pull. Right? And then this should happen on physics process because this has to do with movement, right? So physics process. It's not a variable, it's a function. There you go. Then on physics process, you're going to check the input processor. If input processor point jump input equals enums point button state point press. If the key has been pressed and the player is not on the ground, so not player is on floor, and the jump is stop. So actually we should check that one first because it's the easiest one of all of them to check, so that we can like just immediately knock it off with the easier, and then we don't have to actually access external things, right? If all of these things are true, then I want to give you a second jump. So we're going to, let's do something. Let's, rather than give it set it to a specific number, let's set it to a number multiplied by a parameter of the player. So we're gonna have another variable that is jump factor, and this is a float. So the idea is maybe I want the second jump to be just as high as the first one, or maybe I want it to be shorter, but I want to check the first one in order to know. So then let's call a function that's just gonna be called do second jump, right? And on do second jump, what you do is you take the movement handler, you take the current vertical speed, and you set it to whatever's in the movement handler current active parameters jump force times the jump factor. And then when you do the second jump, you also take away the jump, whether the jump has been stopped, so jump stop equals false, right? And then you're not going to give a third jump by accident. And then the other thing that I have to do is make sure that if the player touches the ground, then you restock that second jump. So if player point is on floor, jump stock equals true. You restock it so that it can do another second jump. So then the idea is I should be able to set this jump factor to 1, assign the input processor, assign the movement handler, and assign the player. And then that's gonna make it so that it doesn't. Okay, so what's wrong then? Are you at any point doing this? Yes, but you do it on the first jump. So how do I get you to not do it on the first jump? Why are you doing it only on... Why are you doing it on the first jump, actually? It's gonna be a matter of timing, right? Like, it's checking whether the player is on the ground, but by the time it checks, the player has already left the ground because the movement handler has already done its thing. So I will need to make sure that this happens. I will need to make sure that this somehow happens before this. Before this, guys, is physics process. Or I could make it so that this thing just checks, right? I mean, okay though, but I could just do, because I feel like this kind of signal will be useful anyway, so why not just make a signal? Just have it so that the movement handler has a signal that is player just, yeah, just jump, right? Made player jump, right? And then have it so that that signal gets called by the movement handler whenever the player jumps. Vertical velocity. Right, so then just made player jump mid, right? And then we can have it so that the input processor, well, I mean, yeah, I could connect the signal from here, but given that this thing is going to be connecting and disconnecting from it, then it feels like it will make more sense to do it through code. So ready? When you're ready, I need you to take the input processor and take the made player jump signal. No, not the input processor, the movement handler, and take the made player jump signal and connect to it the function inhibit second jump, and what this does is just change a variable that is the jump inhibited, and it's bool, right? Actually, it just starts as false, and then this just makes the jump inhibited variable true, jump inhibited equals true, and then we also check for that. So we check for all of these things. We check that the, let's actually just do it like this because it's easier to read. What do you mean? Oh. No, this is the if. That doesn't feel right. Is that really? No, I'm just gonna do it all in the same line. I don't trust that. I don't care. It's a long ass line now. I really don't care. Okay. Jump inhibited, and if the jump isn't inhibited, and also if the jump is stopped, right? All that. And then if the jump is inhibited, then on the next frame we have to make sure that it isn't, because that only works for one frame, right? Jump inhibited, then jump inhibited equals false. So that'll only last for one frame. And then to you connect this function, this inhibit second jump, So that makes it that when the input processor jumps, this guy is going to avoid doing the second jump, right? Expected. Oh, that's just okay. That was just a lingering error. So then, jump, second jump. It's a very tiny jump. So okay, that works. But why is it so small? Did I forget to set the thing? No, there is one. It's the amount of jump times 1. Is it that it is being affected by the falling speed? Oh, okay, that's the thing. Okay. We also have to make sure that fast falling is not set to true, because that's gonna be the case. So when you do the second jump, you also take the movement handler and tell it, hey, you're fast falling. Make it false. There you go. And now I can make it so that it's like, let's say that I can make this second jump only half as powerful. And it's gonna be like, or I can make it so that it's like, let's say 75 as powerful. So it's a smaller jump. Right, but I have a second jump, right? So the idea is this. Okay, we have this thing that is a second jump, but I don't want you to have it unless you're currently grabbing the grab dummy. So I would have to have this only be activated when I use the grab dummy. Now, obviously, it would be a bit silly to have this player have 1,000 nodes, half of which are only active sometimes, right? Obviously, it would make way more sense to have this have nodes be added and taken from it as it grabs the things, right? It also means that we don't have to edit the player as much. Like, it reduces, what is it that fucking programmers with a stick up their ass call this? It reduces dependability? No, it's not. What is it? Dependency. It reduces dependency in the code, right? Which, as much as the term is a bit of a fart sniffing thing, it is a real thing that you want to reduce, right? So how would I do this? Well, this is where the other part that I was saying that I wasn't going to focus on immediately comes in. This double jump, it shouldn't be a class that extends from node. It should be a class that extends from a generic class that is the extra power, right? Or the extra ability, right? So the extra ability should be, yeah, let's just make that, to begin with, just make that. We have this, this generic script. It's going to be called the extra ability, right? And then this extra ability, class name, extra ability, it extends. This one does extend enough, but then this double jump will extend this extra ability. So we're going to move a bunch of functionality from here to there, right? Essentially, the extra ability's whole thing is that it receives a signal from the grabbable object that it belongs to. Or is it the grabbable object that it belongs to? And then upon receiving that signal, it hooks itself up to the player in whatever way that it needs, right? So, yeah. well, let's just copy it, right? Just that I have an idea of. Let's copy this node and paste it here, right? And so you have this double jump that is an extra ability. So rather than having these references set externally, because obviously the grab dummy on its own is not going to know where the player is, and it doesn't really care about it right now. It only cares about it when it is grabbed. So when the grab dummy is grabbed, it emits a signal to its double... No, it doesn't emit a signal because that's a child of it. So it shouldn't emit a signal, it should just call it. So this should have a exported variable that is a extra ability. It's an extra ability type node. It doesn't care which ability it is, it just knows that it is one, right? And this might be null, so we have to account for that. But when you are grabbed, then you take this extra ability. If this extra ability is not null, then you take this extra ability and you hook it up. Hook it up to the player. Here's the issue, because now we have to give it a player, and this does not have access to the player. So I have to make it so that when the player sends out the try grab, it should not only send it its health position, it should also send it its player. So player, player, and then you send the player, right? Then then whoever sends this try grab signal, which I think is the hands. So when the hands detect that they've grabbed the thing, they should send not only that, but they should also send the player. They do have a reference to the player, right? Why would they not? They don't. Okay, that's fine. We just have to add that. Just add an external reference. And then make sure to set that up in the player scene. So, right, just like that. And then that makes it so that the grabbable, when it is grabbed, it knows who the player is and sends that reference to its ability, and then its ability knows how to hook up to the player, right? It's freezing. It just froze. That hasn't happened in a while, actually. Program crashed with signal 11. Yeah, no idea what happened there. Let's just try to open it again. Hopefully I didn't lose much progress, huh? I don't think I would have. I've been hitting save fairly often. Yeah, no, that's the last thing I was doing. Okay, so yeah, now the grab dummy has the reference to the player when it passes, and then the double jump can use that to hook up, right? So the extra ability is the one that should do that. So we need a variable that is hook up to player, right? We need a function that is player hookup. Yeah, hook up to player. So the extra ability is gonna need that's function, hook up to player, receives a player of type player, right? So then, what does it need to hook up to? The double jump needed the input processor. All of them are going to need the input processor. All of them are going to need the movement handler. Are all of them going to need those? We'll worry about that later. For now, let's assume that they do. So all of them are going to need, they are going to have an input processor. And the movement handler. And on top of that, just a reference to the player itself, right? Then they're also going to need a variable that tells them whether they're currently hooked up to the player or not, because if they're not, then they don't have to run any code. I just don't want them to, right? So, actually, that could just be the player, right? But no, I feel better making it more explicit. Just syntactically, lexically, it makes more sense to me to be asking whether you're hooked to the player than whether your player is not, right? Also, this lets me make it just a boolean, which is just nicer, right? It just looks nicer. In effect, it's the same though. So then, hook up to the player. Player equal, oh, this is going to have, okay, past player, right? So the past player, then make the input processor the past player point input process. Does the player really not have a reference to its own input processor? How does that work? Wait, hold on. Am I really going to just give you this? Give you a reference to the movement processor literally just so that you can pass it on to somebody else? Isn't there a better way to do this? Like, can I do a search? No, but a search would be too costly though. Like, that would definitely be a bad idea. Because in Unity you just to get component, right? But it's not a great idea to do that if you can avoid it. You know what? We're just gonna hold the reference. Sure. It's not like it doesn't make sense for the player to know who its input processor is. Oh, it already knows its movement handler. Okay, that's fine. So then, yeah, the grab dummy, no, the extra ability is going to know its input processor, it's going to know its movement handler. And then we're gonna have hooked to player equals true, right? And then we're gonna have another function that is function onHook. This is going to be player equals null input processor equals null movement handler equals null, and then hook the player equals false, right? And then this onHook happens when you get tossed. So if the extra ability exists, so if it isn't null, then you ability on hook. Now the double jump has this issue where it wants these three variables, but the extra ability is going to give it to it, so just do that. Then we have to make sure that this physics process really only happens when you are unhooked, when you are hooked. So if you're not hooked to a player, then return. Just don't do anything. Then the other problem that we have is that it's doing this on ready, but we don't want it to do it ready. We want it to do it when it's hooked. So what we do is we make these two functions overridable, and then we make it so that the double jump specifically overrides that one of those. So function hook up to player, override this, right? And then super what was it that you did it? Oh, that's how you did it. Okay, so yeah. You're gonna do when you receive a hookup, you're going to override it. So instead of doing what the extra ability does, when you do this, you're going to do your own thing. But your own thing is going to be, and this is what super means, the thing that your parent does, but then also on top of that, you connect to the movement handler, the inhibit second jump, to the movement handlers, which you already have, made player jump signal, the inhibit second jump function. And then we have to make sure to unhook that. So function on hook movement handler made player jump disconnect inhibit second jump. So just forget that was a connection in the first place, and then do the rest of the function. And that might just straight up work, right? Do we have to set up any? Yeah, we do. We set up the extra ability here. But that's it, right? So you grab this, and yeah, it fucks up. What happened? Because it's called underscore hookup to player because it's overridable. It's called input processor, not input process. Valid to jump input on a base object of type nil. So you think that your input processor is nil, but it shouldn't be. The extra ability should have given you the input processor. Oh yeah, it's because I didn't set it up on the player yet. Yep, there it is. And I can do the second jump, but if I release it, it dies. Because it's not called unhook, it's called underscore unhook. Okay, so first of all, I jump normally, I cannot do a second jump, right? Then I grab, all of a sudden I can double jump. I toss, can't double jump anymore. I grab, oh fuck yeah, it just works. Oh, hell yeah, okay. Okay, that's good because that's the whole gimmick of the game. So, okay, the idea now is I can make a different extra ability without touching the player. I just code its behavior inside of this and make sure that the hook up and unhook give it the things that it's going to need from the player. It's gonna have access to the player on hookup. You can just make it so that it doesn't. Yeah. So every extra ability is going to be a node, a class that overwrites this extra ability to add its behavior and define its hookups. And the idea is that by looking at the input processor, they can check for the other ability button, right? Oh, but there is one area. Past player. Past player. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to need to do for this is going to be actually design a bunch of abilities so that I have a better idea of what I need to code for the general case. Because some of them may have requirements that I'm going to need to set up, right? But this is looking good. And then code the behavior of the different grabbables so that they're not just tossed like that. I actually want to be able to do directional tossing, but we're gonna have to code that next time. Yeah, I think this is a good time to BRB, a good time to break from this, and then next time we're gonna make more progress. Oh fuck yeah, that's working so good though. Okay, so that's enough coding for today, but I'm going to do some other stuff after. So here's the thing, I'm deciding whether I want to do, because I've been playing 2 games on stream, right? So I'm deciding which one I want to do next. Which one do I feel like doing? I think I'm gonna play Blasphemous. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna play Blasphemous. So, 1 second. All right. So I'm gonna be seeing you in a bit. I'm gonna take a bit of a break, go to the restroom, you know, that kind of thing, and then I'm going to play Blasphemous and probably die a whole bunch to really stupid bullshit, like always. Yeah. See you in a bit.